There's a plate of cast iron sitting out behind my shop, and it's been out there 8 weeks now, through all the summer heat, and it's gone completely to rust. Orange, flaking, ruined. Right beside it sits another plate, same iron, same 8 weeks, same sun and dew and heat, and it looks like I set it down yesterday. Clean, bright, not a single speck of rust on it anywhere. Same metal, same weather, same 8 weeks of neglect. The only difference is what I wiped on one of them before I walked away. Now, I've got 9 different things here that all claim to be the answer to rust. 9 cans and tins and bottles, every one of them promising to keep your steel clean. And I'll tell you straight, before I did this, I couldn't have told you which one to trust. The label tells you what the company wants you to believe. The label doesn't sit out in the weather for 2 months, so I made them all sit out in the weather for 2 months, and I'm going to show you which one won. But you cannot start at the end. If I just tell you the winner right now, you'll go buy it and you'll still get it wrong because you won't understand what you're fighting. So let me back up. My furry Dodge, my grandmother, used to say rust is the iron trying to go home. She wasn't far off. Iron doesn't come out of the ground as this bright, hard, useful thing you hold in your hand. It comes out of the ground as ore, as rust, near enough. We spend a great deal of fire and effort to pull it up out of that state and make it into a blade or a plate or a pipe. And from the moment we do, it wants to go back. Rust is iron remembering what it was before we bothered it. I come from people who worked metal. Tinkers, my family were called, and worse, but working iron and mending pots and grinding edges was honest trade, and a man who lets his tools rust in that life doesn't eat. So I was taught young, your iron is your living, and rust is the thief that comes in the night to take it. You learn to watch for it the way a shepherd watches for the wolf, and you learn the tricks, the old ones, the ones that cost nothing, long before anybody's selling you the answer in a spray can. One of those old tricks tells you exactly what these products are doing, so let me give it to you. If you've ever seen a galvanized bucket, that dull, silvery gray on a cheap pail, that's steel dipped in zinc. And the clever part isn't that the zinc covers the steel, it's that the zinc wants to rust more than the steel does. So the rust goes after the zinc first and leaves the iron be. The old boatmen knew this too. They'd bolt a lump of soft metal to the hull and let the sea eat that lump instead of the boat. They called it giving the rust something to chew on. Now, none of the 9 things I'm testing today work quite like that. But I tell you so you understand there's more than one way to fight this. And the way most of these cans fight it is the simplest of all. They just build a wall. Now, here's the part most people never get told, and it's the whole key to this. Rust is not one thing touching your metal. It's 3 things meeting at once. You need iron, you've got that. You need oxygen, that's the air, you can't get away from it. And you need water, that's the dew, the damp, the humidity that settles on everything overnight, even in a dry summer. Iron, oxygen, water. Bring those 3 together and they strike up a little current between them, a tiny bit of electricity running across the face of your metal, and that current is what eats it. That's why they call it an electrochemical thing. It's not the air alone. It's not the water alone. It's the 2 of them shaking hands on the surface of your steel. And if you want it to go faster, throw in salt. Salt in the air near the coast, salt off a winter road. Salt makes that little current run harder and your metal goes quicker. That's why a truck rots out in a snow state and lasts forever in the desert. Same truck, different water. So hold that in your head, because it tells you exactly what every one of these 9 products is trying to do. Not one of them makes your iron stronger. Not one. All they can do, every single one, is get in between the metal and the water and the air. Put up a wall, a skim, something the damp can't get through to reach the steel. That's the whole game. The best one isn't the one with the loudest label. It's the one that builds the best wall and keeps standing there the longest. which is why a test like this matters. You can't tell how good a wall is by looking at the can. You've got to leave it out in the storm and come back. So let me tell you how I set it up, because if you're going to trust the answer, you ought to know it was a fair fight. I cut up plates of steel and coupons of cast iron, two different metals, because they don't behave the same. And here's why I bothered with both, since I said I'd come back to it. Your ordinary plate steel is smooth and dense, and rust has to work its way in from the surface. Cast iron's a rougher, more open thing, full of little pockets and grain from the way it's poured. And rust loves a rough surface because it gives the damp more places to sit and take hold. So cast iron tends to go faster and holds the rust harder once it's got it. That matters to you at home because your good skillet, your machine tables, your old vise, a lot of the iron you actually care about is cast. If a product can protect cast iron out in the weather, it can protect near enough anything. So I watched the cast iron closest of all. Then I sandblasted every one of them down to clean, bright, bare metal, so they all started dead equal. No old paint, no old grease, no head start for anybody. Then I laid on each product exactly the way its maker says to. Not my way, their way. Give every one its best shot. And then I did the hardest part, which is nothing. Set them all outside in the open eastern side of Washington State, right through the summer when it's hot and dry in the day and damp at dawn. 8 weeks. No shed, no cover, no wiping them down. Just left them to the weather like a tool you forgot on a fence post. Because that's the real test, isn't it? Not the lab, the fence post. And I left one plate with nothing on it at all. Bare. That's the one you saw at the start, gone completely to rust. That plate isn't a failure. It's the most important piece in the whole test because it's the truth teller. It shows you what the weather did with no help at all, so that every other plate has something honest to be measured against. Without that bare one, a product could look like a hero when really the weather just wasn't that hard that summer. The bare plate keeps everybody honest. When you test anything in your own life, a feed, a fix, a way of doing a thing, always keep one that got no treatment so you know what you're really comparing to. My grandmother didn't call it a control sample, she called it leaving one be, so you'd know whether your fussing helped or you just imagined it did. Same idea, older words. Now, before I walk you down the line, I have to stop and give you the one warning that matters most in this whole business, and it's got nothing to do with which can you buy. Some of the old-timers, and plenty of videos still today, will tell you to just wipe your tools down with used motor oil. Free, they say. Old engine oil out the drain pan, rub it on, keeps the rust off. And it does keep some rust off. But listen to me, that black used oil is full of poison, burnt metal, fuel, the stuff the engine cooked up over its life. You rub that on a tool you touch with your hands, you're wiping it into your skin. You wipe it on something in the garden, it goes into the ground and into the water. And in a lot of places, it is flat out against the law to use it that way because it doesn't wash away. It stays in the dirt for years. Don't do it. There are honest products made for this that cost a few coins and won't poison your ground or your hands. Use those. That's the one thing in this whole video I'll raise my voice about. All right, let me walk the line. I'll start with the plain WD-40. The yellow and blue can everyone's got under the sink. And I'll be honest with you, it did better than I thought it would. In a pinch, if that's all you had in the house, it kept the cast iron from going bad. But it left a dirty film behind, thick and hard to wipe off, and that tells you something. WD-40 was never really meant to live outside for 2 months. It's a water chaser, a loosener, a quick fix. It'll get you through a weekend. It won't get you through a winter. Then there's the WD-40 Corrosion one, the specialist can, different from the plain stuff. This one did well, better than the yellow can. It grabbed onto the metal and stayed put where the plain one wanted to run off. But it left a residue sitting on the cast iron I didn't love. Good protection, bit of a mess. Now the CRC. This one held the rust back fairly well, I'll give it that. But when I came to clean it off, the metal underneath had gone tarnished, discolored, and that stain did not want to come off. The cast iron had picked up a little surface rust, too. Not a disaster, not a winner. Then the T9. And here's where you start to see the trade a lot of these make. The T9 did a fantastic job on the rust itself, right up there with the best of them, hardly any rust at all. But it left the metal tarnished, darkened, and that color would not come off no matter what I did. And it's dear, a small can, not much in it, for the money. So now you've got to ask yourself a question, and this is the real thinking part. What are you protecting, and do you care how it looks? Because if that's a hidden part inside a machine, who cares if it's a bit stained, long as it doesn't rust? But if that's a tool you want bright, or a surface that has to be clean and true, you don't want something that saves it from rust by staining it instead. Hold that thought. It matters more than you'd think, and it's going to decide the winner. The PB Blaster, same family of story. Kept the rust down pretty fair. Cast iron got a little surface rust, but again it left discoloring and tarnish behind that fought me on the way off. If that's all you've got in the shed, it'll do. It's not the one I'd go buy on purpose. Now, I put a couple of wild cards in, because you should always test the thing you've been told is good, not just the thing sold for the job. I use a cool mist on my milling machines, good stuff for what it's for, so I tried it here. And I'll be straight with you, it disappointed me. Out in that open weather, it did worse than the plate I left with nothing on it at all. Worse than bare metal. Now, that's not the mist being bad, it's the mist being asked to do a job it was never built for. It's made to run on a machine indoors, not to stand out in the dew for 8 weeks. Which is the whole lesson of this test in one plate. The right tool in the wrong place is no tool at all. I had a water-based rust block in there too, and it didn't do well outdoors, but I want to be fair to it because I don't think it was ever meant to sit in the open weather either. Indoors, in a dry shop, on a shelf, it might be a different story entirely. Out on my fence post in the summer damp, it wasn't the one. So take that result with the fairness it's owed. Now, we're getting near the end, and I've shown you a lot of pretty good and a lot of held the rust but stained the steel. 2 of these rose above all that. 2 of them didn't make you choose between clean iron and clean-looking iron. And I told you at the start I'd give you the winner, so here it is. The Minwax finishing paste. Wax, not an oil. And on the rust, it was perfect. 0. None. When I wiped it back, that cast iron looked exactly, and I mean exactly, like I'd waxed it the day before. 8 weeks in the weather, and it looked a day old. If sheer protection were the only thing that mattered, this would be your answer and we'd be done. The one catch? A paste like that is more work to put on. You've got to rub it in properly, and on a fiddly shape or a big surface, that's real elbow grease. So it's the champion for the thing you set up once and want protected hard. The cast iron table, the tool you're putting away for the season. But the one that walked away with it for me, the best all around, was the stable rust stopper. Best looking coupon in the whole test of all 9. The cast iron came through excellent. It left a little residue, yes, but that residue wiped straight off, easy, no fighting it, no stain left behind. And that's the thing the others couldn't manage. It protected like the best of them, and it came off clean like the cheap ones couldn't. Protection and easy on, easy off, all in the one can. That's why it's my pick. Not because it did one thing best, but because it didn't make me trade one good thing away to get another. So there's your honest answer, and here's how you use it. If you're putting a tool or a machine surface away, and you want it protected hard and you don't mind the work, the paste wax every time. If you want the everyday, do it often, protects well and wipes off clean answer for the shop, the stable rust stopper. And if it's Sunday night and all you've got is that yellow can under the sink, fine. The plain WD-40 will get you to the week. Just know you'll be doing it again soon. And let me give you the part the can won't tell you, because how you put it on matters near as much as which one you buy. Every one of these builds a wall, but a wall's only as good as the ground it's laid on. Put any of them on dirty, damp, or already rusting metal, and you've just sealed the water and the rot inside, where it'll keep eating in the dark while the surface looks fine. So before you lay on a single one, clean the metal, get it down to sound bright steel, and get it bone dry. Dry is the word. If there's damp trapped under your coating, you've built a wall around your enemy instead of keeping him out. Thin and even beats thick and gloppy, too. A thin coat that touches everywhere protects better than a heavy blob that misses the edges. And it's the edges and corners where rust always starts, because that's where a lazy coat runs thin. Get the edges. Rust is patient and it will find the one spot you skipped. But whichever you pick, remember what you actually learned here, because that's worth more than the name on a can. Rust is iron, air, and water meeting on a bare surface. Every one of these works by keeping the water off. So even before you spray a thing, wipe your steel dry. Keep it out of the damp where you can. Don't let it sit in the wet. Half the fight is won before you ever open a can, just by keeping the water away from the metal. My Furida knew that with a dry rag and a dry shed long before anybody sold it in a bottle. Now, I sandblasted all these plates clean before I started, and there's a right way and a dead wrong way to bring a rusted tool back to bare bright metal without wrecking it or without breathing in what you shouldn't. That's a whole business of its own, and I've got some old tricks for it that cost almost nothing. But that's for another time. You keep your iron dry this week. I'll see you at the next one.